Oh, baby. Let's see what we're doing here. Hey, Nick. God is good. What's up, buddy? This is my first live stream ever. So give me a second. Bear with me. I've never done this before. I am popping the proverbial cherry here. But anyways, I'm supposed to start at 9:15 and I clicked it a little early. But what are you going to do? Better early than late. So I am John Scott. This is Dropping the Gloves podcast. I'm not sure if you listening out there have listened to the podcast before, viewed the podcast, but here we are. If you're a fan of the show, let me know in the chat. We're trying something new tonight. Just give her a go and see how it is. But obviously, I'll give a little update of who I am. I former hockey player, played for 10 years professional, 8 years in the NHL. Now living in Traverse City, Michigan. About to head to Buffalo tomorrow. Good evening, everyone. Jerry's here too. I'm going to do my regular podcast, and hopefully it evolves into some question and answers. We can bat some stuff back and forth, and we'll have a good time. Obviously, there's people joining in, leaving, and we're gonna see how it goes. It could be a 20-minute live stream. It could be a 2-hour live stream. I don't know. It can't be too long. I got to go to Buffalo tomorrow. I'm doing a charity event for Ryan Miller, and I need to leave in the morning from Traverse City. So you need to just, let me leave. Someone said the Canucks are getting whacked right now. A little update on the scores. My Sharks are taking it to the Capitals. There's 10 minutes left in the third there, and the Penguins are taking it to the Philadelphia Flyers. Ooh, doggy, 6-1. I wish I was watching some of those games, but we're here. And here we go. All right, welcome, everybody. I'm just going to start the show, and if you have questions, please drop it in the comments. We're going to get it started off with the New Jersey Devils and the Dougie Hamilton situation because, my goodness, it's amazing to see the drama that surrounds the NHL these days, whether it's the Ottawa Senators, the Dougie Hamilton situation, what's going on with the Rangers. It's an endless stream of drama. And in years past, everybody, when I played a million years ago, the one thing, if you were a GM, if you were a team and you were trying to build a franchise, the one thing that you desperately wanted to get was that franchise defenseman. It was just something, if you got it, you held on to it and you would never let it go. These days, it seems like that is not the case anymore. If you get a franchise defenseman, you're willing to trade him at the drop of a hat. And it's strange to me because, in my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you want to win, the most important thing is to have that defenseman. Yes, the goaltender is great. It's nice to have a star goaltender, whether it's Vasilevsky or Bobrovsky or Hellebuck or this, that, and the other. But as we can see with Winnipeg, you can have the best goaltender on the planet, like hands down, and not win anything, like not win one round. You can have an Ottinger, a Hellebuck, a Shesterkin, these types of goaltenders, and you don't win jack squat. You can win a Stanley Cup with a pretty good, serviceable goaltender. The same goes for forwards. Yes, it's luxurious to have a Connor McDavid, but you can win a Stanley Cup with a decent forward group. Yeah, it's good to have a star, but in my opinion, up front, you need depth. You need a good first, second, third, fourth line to carry you through that playoff just onslaught of 1, 2, 3, 4 rounds. What you desperately need, what you can't win without. And comment in the comments if I'm wrong, but you cannot win a Stanley Cup without star goaltenders. Star defensemen. You can't do it. Every team that wins the Stanley Cup has a difference maker on the back end. And what the New Jersey Devils are doing, it doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't, because Dougie Hamilton, his makeup, his pedigree, I know he's been injured and he's been having a hard time staying on the ice the last 2-3 years, but when he is on, when he is healthy, the guy's one of the best defensemen in the league. He got 74 points 2 years ago, 22-23. He has been dynamic when he is healthy. And maybe that's the reason why they're giving up on him, because this year, not so good. He's been a little, banged up. He hasn't had the impact that the New Jersey Devils would hope he was going to have. He's got 2 more years left on his $9 million contract. So maybe Fitzgerald is just saying, you know what? It's time to punt. It's time to try to mix up the group a little bit. I have some young defensemen. I have the luxury of maybe moving one of the best defensemen in the league. In my eyes, that's not where I'm starting. I'm starting up front the forward group. There's no way you can convince me that moving a Dougie Hamilton makes this team better. What, you're going to give more ice time to Luke Hughes, the guys who is getting booed on home ice. I like Luke Hughes, but he's no Dougie Hamilton. You're going to give more ice to Brendan Dillon or Pesci or Kovacevic or whatever the hell his name is, Siegenthaler, Simone Nemec. I like their defensive group, but without Dougie Hamilton, it looks very pedestrian. It doesn't look like a Stanley Cup caliber decor where I can go into the playoffs or even go into a game and say, oh yeah, like I can rely on my defense and sit back and win this game 1-0. That doesn't happen without Dougie Hamilton on this roster. And I know what you're going to say. Well, it's not happening now when Dougie Hamilton is on the roster. And I get you, but the New Jersey Devils as a whole are terrible. They're not playing up to their expectations. And it's funny, I went and looked at the Devils, and I've been beating this Devils drums for years now. I think I predicted them to win the Cup 3 years ago. Last year, I thought they were going to make another run. 4 years ago, I thought they were going to make a run. 5 years ago, I thought they were going to make a run. And then you look at their recent history, it's deceptively bad. You think of this team, you think, they got Jack Hughes, they got Dougie Hamilton, they got all of the stars, Nico Hershiser, you got Timo Meier. They have good players up in the lineup. And then you look at what they've done in the playoffs, it's like, holy crap, everybody. These guys have done nothing. They missed the playoffs last year. The year before that, they lost in the first round. The year before that, they didn't make the playoffs. And the year before that, where they had their great year, they had 112 points. Everybody was like, here we go. 52 wins. That's it. They lose in the second round to Carolina Hurricanes in 5 games. It was just a joke. Their goaltenders were Schmid and somebody else. They had terrible goaltending. And it's just like, okay, maybe we're wrong about this New Jersey Devil team. Maybe, Jack Hughes isn't that guy. Maybe Nico Hershiser isn't all that he's cracked up to be. Maybe Yester Brad isn't that guy. Are they the equivalent of the Ottawa Senators, where they just have a group of really solid, good young players, all high draft picks, all have incredible individual talent? And that's the crazy thing and the hard thing that you have to wrap your head around is in a microcosm, in just a singular snapshot of each individual player, you go, damn, like there's some talent on this team. They're incredibly talented. They're fun to watch. But as a whole, when they're playing all these other teams, it's like they're just getting worked. They don't have it. And I look at the Ottawa Senators the same way. Yeah, I know they made the playoffs last year and, grabbed the gorilla off their back, but it's like, is it time to blow this team up? Jack Hughes can never stay healthy. Dougie Hamilton the last 3 years has been unhealthy, and they just can't figure it out. They're going through coaches. They started with Johnny Hines 10 years ago. Then they went to the ageless wonder, Lindy Ruff. Now they got Sheldon Keefe. He's not going to last a season if he keeps playing this way. If the team doesn't start winning, he's gone. This is his second year there. When do they just start ditching players? When is the time? And what did Hockey Head Harris said? They're too small as a team. Look, the X-wing winners, big tough teams. Hockey hasn't changed as much as they want you think. I agree. And that's why when you get to the playoffs, you need a depth. You need and if you listen to my show, this is how you win championships. You're solid down the middle. You need big, solid centermen who can lug the puck, who can play in the corners, who are physical, who don't wear down. Florida had that in spades, and they still do. Colorado, I think, has that now. Tampa Bay had that. New Jersey, not so much. When you look at the New Jersey Devils down the middle, it's Jack Hughes. What is he, 5'8", soaking wet? You got Nico Hershiser. And what is he, 6 foot? But not known as like a huge hitter. And then Cody Glass, I guess, is a little physical. And then Luke Glendening on the fourth line. They're small water bug centermen. In my eyes, you don't win championships that way. And then you look at their wingers, they're even smaller. Timo Meier, Yester Bratt, Andre Palat, Dawson Mercer. These aren't guys, when I look at this roster, if I'm lining up against them, I'm nervous to play. And when I played, you would see teams that were skilled. And in my day, it was the Detroit Red Wings and the Vancouver Canucks were the skilled teams. It was the Datsyuks, the Zetterbergs, the Sedins. Those are some super skilled players. But I knew if I was in the lineup, which was rare against those teams, because they had zero toughness. It was just like a cakewalk playing those teams, and that's why they didn't win anything in my day. They were fun in the regular season. It was great to go to play there as a visiting player because you knew when you walked into that building, you weren't going to get touched. Who on the Red Wings back in the day would hit you? Nobody. Maybe if they had a Mo Sider, I would get a little nervous. But even that, I know Mo's not going to fight me, so I just got to worry about him hitting me every once in a while. And the Vancouver Canucks, Bieksa, no. Rick Rippon, no. God rest his soul, but he wasn't keeping me up at night. And I think that's what the Devils are missing. I'm not saying they need to go out and sign a meathead, but when you look at all these rosters in the Eastern Conference, they have some physicality on their roster. They have somebody to push back. They got some meat in their lineup, and I think you nailed it on the head. The Devils don't have that. They've never really had that, and they need that. And so what do? To change that small forward group, this group that hasn't won anything in the last 10 years, you trade your 6'6" puck-moving defenseman that's, yes, having a down year, but you trade him probably at the worst, and he hasn't been traded yet. But the value on Dougie Hamilton, could it get any lower? Honestly, could it be any lower than it is now? Coming back from his injury, he's played every game this year, 5 goals, 8 assists. That's not that great, but it's not that terrible. He makes $9 million, and I guess the obvious comparable is Seth Jones from the Chicago Blackhawks last year, where it's like, obviously the Blackhawks, Seth Jones wasn't in the future picture with them. They had Bedard and Nazar and Leshevnov and all these Korchinski and all these great young players, and it's showing off now. They're having a great season, but Seth Jones needed to leave. And good on the Chicago Blackhawks. They did their due diligence, and they said, okay, we're going to deal him. And I think they got a great deal from him. They sent him to the Florida Panthers for a first rounder. Could be this year. It's a conditional first round pick, but it potentially will be 2027. I don't know the contingencies that are tied to that one, why it could be 26 or 27. I'm guessing it's due on where the pick is, and the Florida Panthers get the pick where which draft pick they get. And the key thing here is the Panthers got the Chicago Blackhawks to retain 26% of Jones's salary. So that's huge for a team. And if the New Jersey Devils want to get a maximum return for Dougie Hamilton, do you think they eat some of that contract? I don't know if you can if you're a contender. The Chicago Blackhawks had the luxury of doing that because this guy, the Hawks weren't in contention, and they still won't be for a few more years, so they were able to eat some of that contract. But if you're Tom Fitzgerald, he's fighting for his job. Tom Fitzgerald, rightfully so, could be fired at the end of this year, so he won't eat any of that cap. There's no way in hell this guy's going to eat any of that cap. So he's going to deal Dougie Hamilton, get whatever he can back, and try to make this team a contender, because at the end of the day, the hockey world is dying to just keep your job. That's all they're trying to do, is keep their jobs, and Tom Fitzgerald's head is on the chopping block. So let me know what you think. Is trading Dougie Hamilton a good idea? Is trading Palat a good idea for the New Jersey Devils? Or as HockeyHead151 says, they need to get bigger. Would it make more sense to trade a Timo Meier, trade a Jesper Bratt, trade a Jack Hughes? I know they're not going to trade a Jack Hughes, but in my eyes, I think you start with Jesper Bratt. The guy's an absolute stud. He's a superstar player. I love the way he plays, but I think you need to get bigger. I think you need to deal with your offensive issues and your issues up front. You're not intimidating. You're not imposing. You're not winning any battles. And I would start with Jesper Bratt and Timo Meier. I know it's outrageous, but you have to start somewhere. And you can't start dealing stud defensemen. Good franchises don't do that, which brings us to Vancouver and a bad franchise. I'm not going to go on Vancouver, but trading Quinn Hughes was the dumbest thing they could have ever done. It just defies logic to trade a generational defenseman like Quinn Hughes is for decent NHL players. It's so stupid. And this is a problem that I have in today's NHL. And this is why live streams could be trouble. But it's like, how the hell did you get a job as a GM in this league? And, it doesn't make any sense. And in Vancouver, you have Quinn Hughes. You trade everybody else but Quinn Hughes. That's it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about this if I'm the Vancouver Canucks. So for that franchise to go out and trade him, everybody should be fired. It's just stupid. that they allowed, what was it, Patrick Alvin to make this move. Jim Rutherford comes in and starts just challenging Quinn Hughes right away. Boggles my mind. Sorry for yelling, but Quinn Hughes, you do whatever you can to keep that kid on your team. Now they goes to Minnesota. The guy looks unbelievable. Brock Faber. Those two guys are dangerous. Minnesota, the guy looks unbelievable. Brock Faber. Those two guys are dangerous, which is going to get to our last topic at the end of the show. I don't know how long we're going to go. The chat's just blowing up right now. I'm going to have a little Crown Royal, which gets us to drama in the NHL. You know, I've been on teams. I'm going to Buffalo tomorrow where it's just dysfunction. I was in Buffalo when Terry Pagula took over, and it was just, hold on, hockey head, you're killing me. Hughes wanted to play with his brothers and as soft as can be. I agree, but he's a hell of a hockey player. I don't care how soft anybody is, but he's a hell of a hockey player. Do you know the hockey guy? I don't. Should I meet him? And this is another thing. At what point? So yeah, I get Hughes is a soft, but does he have to be a hard ass? Does he have to be nails in order to be a hell of a hockey player? I've played with plenty of soft players. That's fine. I guess if he's, talking about culture and building it in Vancouver, you can build a culture with a player that's soft, who's an incredible talent. I've been on teams where you've had, and I'm not going to throw stones here, but when I was in Chicago, Kaner was a young kid where you had to be careful with Kaner, and he wasn't the guy he is now. And so what did Chicago do? They surrounded him with good, solid human beings to insulate him and protect him. You bring in a Marian Hoser, you have a Patrick Sharp, you bring in veteran forwards and veteran defensemen, and then all of a sudden, all those distractions and things and him being soft are gone, and you can just focus on him being a hell of a hockey player. And Quinn Hughes is the same type of way where it's just like, this guy's like a once-in-a-lifetime type player. There's not a lot of guys who can do what he does. So I get what you're saying. It's time to tear things down, but you start other places. You get rid of Pettersson. You get rid of Brock Besser. You get rid of those other guys, and you build around a Quinn Hughes. So I don't know. I don't think you win with Quinn Hughes or Petey. I agree with the Petey part. I would have loved to bring in Phil Kessel and help that room. Our owner needs to. Phil would have helped that room. I wholeheartedly agree. But just to talk about the culture of a room, going back to my Buffalo situation where I was there when Terry Pagula took ownership of that team. And you come in with good intentions and you mean well. He went out. He literally came in the locker room day one, and he told every single player, he said, whatever you need, I'll get it for you. Anything, whether it's a certain type of water, whether it's food, whether it's a trainer, anything you guys want, stick skates, anything. You want a certain hotel on the road, I will get that for you to help you to succeed. And you would think giving the players that leverage and that, open Pandora's box to them would help. It doesn't. I've been on franchises where you have next to nothing and you win. It is all, and like Jerry said, was it Jerry who said culture or hockey head? It starts from the top. It starts with accountability. It starts with knowing who the boss is and knowing your pecking order. When Terry Pagula came in, no one really knew where anybody stood because he brought in all these people and you don't know who you're talking to. Should I talk directly to the owner? Should I talk to the coach? Should I talk to the GM? And it doesn't work that way. That's why when I was in Buffalo, we had, Teddy Nolan, we had Ron Rolston, we had Lindy Ruff, we had Pat LaFontaine, we had Troy Murray, we had so many people in and out of that franchise. It was like, what the hell are we doing, you guys? Like, it doesn't make sense. But then you go to another franchise where it's just very simplified, very structured. And it's like, okay, I understand why we win. I understand why this is a successful franchise. And going to Ottawa, where you get this heinous rumor about Linus Ullmark, where what was it? He cheated on his wife. And this is a rumor. Allegedly, I don't think it's true, but you guys all heard it, where he's sleeping around and he tells his wife all the other guys are cheating, blah, blah, blah. It's come out where it's been debunked. So who knows if it's true or not. But in all fairness, do rumors like that come about on good teams? Do you hear that kind of crap swirling around, a Dallas Stars organization? or like another good, like Tampa or Florida, those organizations that are successful teams where everybody knows where they stand and, they're focused on hockey and hockey only. No, you hear that type of crap. Remember 2 years ago in Chicago, it was after the 2010 crap. They fired Joe Quenneville. They just cleaned house and they brought in a bunch of hires that, not everybody agreed with. And they were trying to figure out, what do we do? Or is this like, do we got to hire, more women? Do we got to hire minorities? What are we doing? And the whole front office was just dysfunctional. And then so the season starts and you have this number 1 overall pick and everybody's excited. And then the rumors start because Corey Perry was suspended. And the real reason was so innocent. It wasn't innocent. It was not very good. But from what they assumed and to what really happened, there couldn't have been a bigger space between the truth and what they were accusing him with. He was accused with sleeping with Connor Bedard's mom. Like, are you kidding me? And instead of like squashing it because the Hawks didn't really know who was supposed to stay, who was supposed to say something, they just kind of let it go away. And then when you don't squash the rumor, it just kind of gets legs and goes. And then there's, well, maybe it is true. They're not saying anything. It was just a terrible situation because the organization hadn't figured out who's the head of this department, who's supposed to say something. It wasn't solid yet. It's great now. Like they have figured it out now, but right after that whole scandal and everything, it was just nobody wanted to stick their neck out to get chopped off. And that's what it was. You mentioned Vancouver, the whole JT Miller situation. It's like, what the hell's going on there? You have arguably, gosh, in their prime, Vancouver too, and I should say in their prime, they've always been crap, but you have a good Thatcher Demko. I think he won the Vezina. You have a Quinn Hughes. You have a Bo Horvat. You have a young Elias Pettersson. You have a Brock Besser, who's an absolute sniper. You have all of these keys. You have these assets to a championship run. You go and you get, I think they got Nikita Zadorov. This team was primed to win a Stanley Cup. And then what happens? You see the cracks starting to form. Oh, you get a JT Miller. We need some grits. You get rid of Bo Horvat. You're trying to switch things up just a little bit. Elias Pettersson doesn't like JT Miller. Then all of a sudden Quinn Hughes isn't having fun. And then Thatcher Demko gets hurt. And then Brock Besser, is he going to stay? Is he going to go? Is he going to get traded at the deadline? All of these things start swirling. It's like, what the hell, everybody? Like we're supposed to be playing for a Stanley Cup and we're dealing with this crap. It's like, and then they go inside Vander Kane. Like, are we kidding? Like, are we joking here, Vancouver? Like, if I'm Quinn Hughes, I'm happy I'm gone from that toxic environment. But I used to be so high on that team. I used to be so high on the New Jersey Devils. And you guys listening, what do we have to do to get these guys to be competitive teams? Because when you look at the talent that they have, it's criminal. It's absolutely criminal that they're playing the way they're playing. And then the Vancouver Canucks, shame on them. They fire Rick Tocchet, who's an incredible coach, who other teams would love to have guiding their teams and guiding their young players and their veteran players. It's a travesty. And that's why I just shake my head. I'm like, what? Who gives out these damn GM jobs? Like how does Patrick Allvin get this job? How does Tom Fitzgerald get this job? They should be gassed right away. There's no way they should still have a job based on how this team has gone. Those two teams have gone over the last 5 years. It's mind-boggling to me that they still have a job. And it's not mind-boggling to me because I've been in the system for a little bit. I know how things work. It's an old boys club. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. And that's why when you see a GM get fired, they're all of a sudden an advisor on another team. They're all of a sudden just, I'm consulting with this team or that team. It's because he did him a favor 5 years ago. So Patrick Allvin, I know he's on the hot seat. So maybe he brings in somebody as a consultant, then he makes that relationship. Then when he's gone, he could go and say, oh, I helped you out here, hire me on. It happens all the time. Go look around at who's a consultant, who's an advisor, who's a special this and that to the GM. It's an absolute job. I bitch about it on my show all the time. When guys retire, they just all of a sudden sign these cushy jobs. Like, I'm the special advisor to the scout for international sales on Thursdays. Oh, I'm just going to make $125,000. It's like, shit, I want that deal. I would love to have that deal. It's just hockey is it's just an old boys club. And if you get in, you're set for life. And it's the same thing with a player. And don't get me wrong, I definitely benefited from that for a few years because as a player, the key thing for you is once you make the show, that first 1-2 months, that's it. Unless you're a high draft pick who people can, invest in, maybe we can change him, we can make him into a player. That first 2 month window, if you can make some noise and turn some heads, you just got yourself a 2, 3, 4 year career. I think of a guy like Aaron Voros. When he got called up to the Minnesota Wild, AV was an okay player, decent offensive skill, a gritty guy, not super tough, but he just had that charisma. So he gets called up to the Wild and he scores a couple goals in his first few games and he fights. And all of a sudden he's the cat's meow and everybody's like, jeepers, creepers, it's Aaron Voros. We got to get this guy. So then he signs a big ticket with the Rangers. He plays there for a few years and he's done because he wasn't a great hockey player. And I think of a guy like Matt Remke for the Rangers. Who knows where he ends up, but he's made enough noise his first year where if he doesn't work out the Rangers, someone else will pick him up because they go, well, you know what? This guy, he's got something to him. And listen, I'm a big Matt Remke fan, but you look at his win-losses for fights. I don't know if he's won a fight. He loses 80% of his fights, but because he had such a big impact, because he fought in the outdoor game, because he fought all these tough guys in a row, and the publicity was behind him, and he got so much press, he will milk that for another 2-3 contracts to get good for him. And I'm all for that. But the old boys club, going back to that, it's real. And, like it or lump it, the GM now, look at Lindy Ruff with the Buffalo Sabres. Look at all these guys. They just recycle because everyone's afraid to step out and hire someone new because if they do that, it might not work out. Then he gets fired. So if I'm a president and I go, I need to hire a GM. Who's won a Stanley Cup before? Okay, go out and get that guy. If I'm a GM and I need to find a coach, I go, who's proven? Who can I say, that's a safe pick, but also I can rely on. And if it goes wrong, I can fire him and it's not me because I'm not doing something outrageous. That's what they do. Nobody's got the balls to go out and do something different. And if they do, it's a revelation. It's like, oh, look at that. Look what the Washington Capitals did. Like, that's a fantastic hire. What's his name? I'm going to be killed by this for Tate Cron and my Patreon for my podcast. Marbury, Sturbury, something Berry. So anyways, back to the Ottawa Senators. When there's smoke, there's fire. Just because this whole allegation didn't occur, allegedly, I'm not saying it did. I'm not saying it didn't, but I hope it didn't. This franchise, they're in trouble. And they need to make some changes. I don't know. They had a great breakout season last year when they made the playoffs and they put a huge scare in the Toronto Maple Leafs, but you don't get these types of rumors from a good franchise. You really, really don't. So I don't know, everybody. It's been a half an hour. If there's any questions, drop them in the chat. I might just take off right now. I got to drive to Buffalo tomorrow. I'm not going to get into the Central Division like I'd hoped to, unless you really want me to. We can talk about the dominance of the Avalanche and the Wild and the Dallas Stars. There's only 10 people in here, so I don't know how good it's going. We might try this in the future, but let's see. Mayo, did you ever fight Mike Fisher? Are you crazy, man? Mike Fisher? The guy was not in my weight class. I used to beat up guys like that on the way to the fight. So let's leave Mike Fisher in the middleweight category where he needs to be. I was one of the super heavies when I played. And yes, I think doing an in-depth on the Kraken this season would be a lot of fun. But yeah, if there's no more questions, everybody, I appreciate the support. There's only 10 of you watching, but if you haven't seen me, check out droppingthegloves.com. I'll give it a couple more seconds. If not, cheers, everybody. And I will try to do this once a week. I enjoy it. Hopefully we can get a little more, people joining in. Maybe we can have a better time. I'll discuss with some of my listeners and we'll do this again, but I appreciate it, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Have a good night and have a good weekend. I'll talk to you later. Cheers.